Hello, I'm Nathan Judo, and here with Wolves reporter is Mr. Liam Keane. Liam, West Ham United 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0. That was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is the worst performance of the season, I think. Wolves were definitely better second half, and Gary O'Neill, I think maybe in an effort to protect the players slightly, has said that he thought Wolves were the better side in the second half, or very good in the second half. I wouldn't go as far as that, but it was definitely improved on that first half. But overall, Wolves came nowhere near close enough to lay a glove on West Ham, and West Ham deserved the 3 points, as simple as that.
I mean, the damage was done first half. It was 2-0 at half time. It should have been a lot more. The scoreline flattered Wolves really, and just some terrible errors really from front to back.
Yeah, the one thing I will agree with Gary O'Neill on is the manner in which Wolves have scored. He described them as disastrous.
Conceded.
I have to say scored and conceded. I'm getting tired of being here watching that. Yeah, it was. They were all transitions. They were giving the ball away so cheaply and so poorly in midfield, and Wolves were just too slow to react. Committed too far forward on a couple of them as well, and they were well taken goals from West Ham's point of view. Credit to them on that front. But from Wolves' point of view, the defending was atrocious. It was.
That left-hand side.
Yeah, all down the left-hand side as well. I mean, I asked Gary about that, and to be fair, he makes a good point that the first one is a corner that gets worked to that side, so it's less of an issue really with that. But the second and the third, players out of position, not tracking back, losing possession. Wolves looked tired and out of sorts really. Yeah,
I mean, Mohammed Kudus was excellent in the first half especially, but at the same time, both goals, it was just so easy. There's no real need to. He just tucked inside, scored. I mean, Dan Bentley was rooted to his spot a couple of times as well. They weren't right in the corner, but at the same time, it was just the ease of West Ham breaking. It was error after error after error, and it just felt like Wolves were going through the motions at times.
Yeah, that's the most concerning thing for me, is that you're handing the opportunities on a play, and West Ham were clinical enough to take them. That's the difference really between the two sides, because Wolves did have moments where, or spells of possession where they did okay. They scored a good goal, which obviously got chalked off. They had a lot of possession in the second half. They didn't really do a lot with. They were struggling to break down a West Ham side that were in cruise control really, first gear. Didn't really need to come out first gear because it was too easy for them at times. So there were small positives to take from it. It just comes down to those major errors and a lack of control and accountability in defence. Wolves were just all over the place.
I mean, he went to a 4 today, of course. People were quite shocked. Nori was on the bench, Hugo Bueno was on the bench. He decided to go with Totti Gomez at left back, Bellegarde kind of floating a little bit, but just didn't work, did it? No,
it didn't work at all. It was strange because it was a 4, and then like that hybrid role that Nori was playing before his injury, Bellegarde was sort of dropping in occasionally into sort of making it a 5, but it was he was more often than not further forward. And he's not the only one. Bellegarde was awful first half. Definitely better second half. Definitely better second half.
And he got kicked to Kingdom Come, by the way.
Yeah, he did, absolutely. But Wolves just seemed very disjointed in that formation and position. I don't think it suited the personnel they had on the field. And look, if Nori wasn't coming back from quite a nasty ankle injury, I'm sure he would have started. It maybe would have been different. Equally, turning points, changing moments in games. Had that goal stood for Sarabia, which was a lovely, well-worked goal that Wolves put together, it might be a different game, but Wolves didn't deserve to get anything from it.
The frustrating thing is coming today is that West Ham have played on Thursday night. They played pretty much the same starting 11 that started today on Sunday.
Bar one, haven't they?
Bar one. And Wolves were the side who looked like they'd played last night.
Yeah.
They looked knackered. They looked tired. A lack of pace at front, at the back as well. When they do lose the ball in transition, they are exposed, aren't they? And look, Craig Dawson's still getting on. He's been an excellent defender. But when you've got Mohammed Kudus, when you've got Jarrod Bowen running at you, and you're trying to cover other people's mistakes, there's only going to be one outcome.
Yeah, he was dragged all over the place today, Dawson. Partly because I don't think he was particularly good himself today, in comparison to what we normally see from him. But equally trying to, atone for other people's errors, and that's difficult. At this level, against this side, you can't make consistent errors in a game and then try and have one player make up for others. It's just not going to happen. And Wolves were just nowhere near the races today. We've spoken to Gary O'Neill already. He said he didn't want to make excuses, but there was a little bit of illness in the camp. I think he said Dawson, Lamina and Cunha, did he say, I think?
I'm not sure about Cunha, maybe. I think it was
Dawson,
Lamina. Yeah, they said they put the hand forward and then wanted to play today.
Yeah, and they were struggling a little bit with illness. Obviously, Sarr, injury, they hope it's a shoulder concern, but they hope
it didn't seem too bad,
they hope it's not serious. he'll be okay. But so look, they had things go against them today in preparation for the game, but equally they've had 8 days to prepare, and they had to do a lot better.
People will look at this game as well, 3-0, of course it was on Sky as well, and people who were watching the game today, and you think, well, you're losing 3-0, and yet you've got two central strikers on the bench, and you don't bring them on in Sasha Kalajic and Fabio Silva. Now we've talked about Fabio Silva. Kalajic is another one where Gary O'Neill's been quite critical of the impact of his substitutes in recent weeks, but at the same time it's quite damning that you're not bringing your two central strikers on, or at least one of them, when the game's pretty much gone.
Yeah, the only small defence I'm going to have of Gary O'Neill here is that I didn't actually think this was a game to bring them on, because what I don't think Wolves were getting back into it. I didn't feel like it was a game to actually give them. I don't think it was going to make any difference, but I completely agree with the sentiment of the question, because how many times, I mean, Fabio's not come off the bench. I think it's 6 or 7 games now, unused substitute, consecutive games. Sasha's hardly played, come off the bench against Fulham and Arsenal briefly, but that's about it. Obviously, Forest.
But when are they going to play Liam? They're not coming on when it's a tight game, because he's
exactly.
He's keeping Hwang Hee-chan, he's keeping Kunyu on. As you'd expect in a tight game, you keep your best players on. But at the end of the day, we're in a run of quick games now in succession, and so if you're looking at Hwang, who was ineffective today, you're looking at Kunyu, and you're 3-0 down, the game's gone, get them off at 70 minutes. So I think for me it's 100%, that's when you do bring them on, get them some minutes under the feet, maybe they can get a consolation goal, maybe that gives a bit of confidence going forward, but for me that's the perfect time to bring them on. When the game's gone, get your best players off and get them in the showers.
It's not a 4, 5, 6, 7-0 though, is it? Yes, Wolves aren't coming back into that game, but strange things have happened in football, and Gary O'Neill, I'm sure, would probably see that or be concerned of the criticism of seeing that as throwing the towel in a game. I think the criticism in terms of not bringing Sasha or Fabio on is more for the Forest game, for example, where it's 1-1 at home, 4 minutes of added time, and Sasha comes on in the 91st. That for me is the mistake there. I don't think it is here today, but the overall sentiment of the question is that he's absolutely spot on, because they're not getting minutes. Now we know what's going to happen with Fabio. He is going to move on, provided they get the right deal on the right club. But Sasha is a striker who came in for 15-odd million.
5-year deal.
Yeah, long deal. Obviously had that major injury, has come on and scored a couple of big goals this season. Didn't perform particularly well off the bench at Fulham and other games recently, but when you can't improve on that without the minutes and the opportunities, and without him playing at all at the moment, it just seems a strange move. And yes, Wolves are looking for a striker in the summer, but they have to give these players minutes as well.
Of course. So look, it's one to discuss, and I'm sure we'll do at length more, in the podcast coming up this week. It's we go into Christmas Eve, buzzing for Christmas Eve. Can't wait. Wolves against Chelsea. Look, this has been really, we said it, 4 points from the 2 games in the week, but it's been 3 poor games, 3 poor watches, isn't it? Now they do get themselves up for these big games, don't they? Chelsea, Christmas Eve. Hopefully Pedro Neto is closer. I'm not sure they've seen from the start, but potentially on the bench, which will be a huge boost. You bring Jose Sarr back in, Ryan Aït-Nouri. Things start to look a little bit better, but at the same time, they're really going to have to up their game if they're going to get something from Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a Chelsea side that have got issues of their own.
Sure.
But equally, they're a side that's got a lot of quality,
Absolutely.
a very good manager, and if Wolves are not at it, Wolves lose this game.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So they have to be at it. They're more than capable of doing that. We know that. We've seen it this season. And back at home, a game that's probably going to have some fan protests, around the concept of having it on Christmas Eve. But it's a potential opportunity for Wolves to put a show on in front of the cameras, in front of the watching world. So it's a big opportunity for me. It's a bigger opportunity than people from outside following Wolves will actually think. I think Wolves have got every opportunity to win this game. But if they play like that, they won't get a single point from it.
West Ham 3, Wolves 0. For the post-match reaction, make sure you log on to expressandstar.com.